Amagyanatimannasyansanansanakyan sakshvinvilitam yena tasmai sigurve namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharani Nirvishesha Simvadi Paskachari Desatarani. So we are in chapter 19. The Lord begs charity from Bali Maharaj. Today we will discuss text 18 till the end of the chapter. And we will also discuss the first verses of chapter 19. So we have heard of chapter 20, I mean. Yeah. So we have heard last time that how the Supreme Lord glorified Bali Maharaj, especially that his ancestors, his forefathers, they were always keeping their promise, that he glorified in some way also Hiranyakasipu, Hiranyaksa, that. And finally, the Lord said, yes, you are able to give charity magnificently. So I'm only asking 3 pieces of land to the measurement of my steps. That and now Bali Maharaj is going to reply. Text 18. In chapter 19, text 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Cheva Narottanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jamudirayat Nastabir Sabatresu Nityam Bhagavatasebhya Bhagavatu Tamaske Bhakti Bhakti Naistike. Text 18. Shibalir Uvacha O Brahmanadayada Pachaste Frida Sammata Tvam Balo Balisa Mati Svartam Prat Abudo Yata. Bali Maharaj said, O son of a Brahmin, your instructions are as good as those of learned and elderly persons. Nonetheless, you are a boy, and your intelligence is insufficient. Thus, you are not very prudent in regard to your self-interest. Yes, because Bali Maharaj said you are asking for so little. Please understand that I rule the entire universe. It is like in going to a very rich man and asking for 10 rupees. It's foolish. So that is what Bali Maharaj is saying. Don't you understand who I am? So Vamandev will be thinking within himself, I do, but you don't understand who I am. Interesting. Period Srila Prabhupada's short purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being full in himself, actually has nothing to do, nothing to want for his self-interest. No. So, but Lord Vamandev is not really begging. Rather, he's going to give his mercy. That, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktaram Chakatapasam Sarvalokamashvadam, the Lord is the proprietor of all planets, in both the material and spiritual worlds. Why should he be in want of land? Pali Maharaj rightly said that Lord Vamandev was not at all prudent in regard to his own personal interests. Lord Vamandev had approached Pali, not for his personal welfare, but for the welfare of his devotees. Devotees sacrifice all personal interests to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And similarly, the Supreme Lord, although having no personal interest, can do anything for the interest of his devotees. One who is fully himself has no personal interest. Text 19. I am able to give you an entire island because I'm the proprietor of the 3 divisions of the universe. You have come to ask something, to take something from me, and have pleased me with your sweet words, but you are asking only for 3 pieces of land. Therefore, you are not very intelligent. That text 20. That, oh, small boy, one who approaches me to beg something should not have to ask anything more anywhere. Therefore, if you wish, you may ask for me as much land as will suffice to maintain you according to your needs. So, Pali Maharaj says, you can take anything you want. Asking for 3 pieces of land? Then the Lord replied, text 21. The personality of God had said, my dear king, even the entirety of whatever there may be within the 3 worlds to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled. So that's interesting. So and that's an important principle for us also, that whatever there may be in the 3 worlds to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled. What does that mean? Please think about that. We will come back to that later. So he's going to speak very cleverly, but completely true. What Vamandev is going to say will be very cleverly, but completely true. Yeah. So I first to not interrupt the pastime. I will first read until text 27 and then come back to the purport. That 22. If I were not satisfied with 3 pieces of land, then surely I would not be satisfied even with possessing one of the 7 islands consisting of 9 varshas. Even if I possessed one island, I would hope to get others. We have heard that although powerful kings like Maharaj Prithu and Maharaj Gaya achieved proprietorship over the 7 dvipas, they could not achieve satisfaction or find the end of their ambitions. So one should be satisfied with whatever he achieves by his previous destiny, for discontent can never bring happiness. A person who is not self-controlled will not be happy even with possessing the 3 worlds. Material existence causes discontent in regard to fulfilling one's lusty desires and achieving more and more money. This is because of the continuation of material life, which is full of repeated birth and death. One should be one who is satisfied by that which is obtained by destiny is fit for liberation from this material existence. A Brahman who is satisfied with whatever is providentially obtained is increasingly enlightened with spiritual power, but the spiritual potency of a dissatisfied Brahman decreases as fire diminishes in potency when water is sprinkled upon it. Therefore, King, from you, the best of those who give charity, I ask only 3 paces of land. By such a gift I shall be very pleased. For the way of happiness is to be fully satisfied, to receive that which is absolutely needed. So we go back to text 21. Read the text again. Personality of God is that, my dear King, even the entirety of whatever there may be within the 3 worlds to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled. He says that the whole world cannot satisfy one if the mind and senses are raging with desires. Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita. He compares lust to fire. Fire will not stop if you continue putting wood. It can consume the entire world. Its capacity to consume will just grow. So it's like that with lusty desires. Therefore, he says in 22, if I were not satisfied with 3 paces of land, then surely I would not be satisfied even with possessing one of the 7 islands consisting of the 9 Vakshas. Even if I possessed one island, I hope to get others. We see that in the world. No matter how much land one has, it will not satisfy one. Then. So we have heard that although powerful kings like Maharaj Prithu and Maharaj Gaya achieved proprietorship over the 7 dvipas, they could not achieve satisfaction or find the end of their ambitions. One should be satisfied with whatever he achieves of his previous destiny. For discontent can never bring happiness. A person who is not self-controlled will not be happy even with possessing the 3 worlds. These are very wise and practical words. It is not that increasing one's capacity to exploit material energy will bring us satisfaction and happiness. Rather, the contrary is true. The more we try to satisfy our desires, the list of desires it just multiplies. If I'm not happy with what I have, I will not be happy with what I don't have, even if it is everything. Lord Vamadev is talking here about the mode of passion. Passional desires, rather than causing happiness, they cause distress. Bhagavad Gita 5:22, Jezus Vasyaboga, de Kyan Evatel, the Anfante Kantia, Nati Shuramate Buddha. Wise man has said that one would try to enjoy, the result will be suffering. The attempt to fulfill material desires causes distress. Only the attempt. Therefore, the description is given is simple living in high thinking. We have heard that in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto, Kamasyan in the Apite, Labjiveta, Javata, Jivasya, Tatvajichnasya, Natyasya, Karmapi. Life desire should never be directed to towards sense gratification. What should one desire? Only a healthy life of self-preservation, and one should desire to know the absolute truth, that nothing else should be the goal. The goal is Krishna. Knowing Krishna too. Srila Prabhupada makes this point in the purport. The Krishna conscious movement should spread so that Krishna consciousness, so that people will be happy. Not that if I only had this, then I'll be happy. it never works like this on the material level. If I have something, then the desire shifts to something else. This is the very nature of the mind. Therefore, all that advertising that fills our consciousness with so many desires is the way of contemporary civilization. It causes so much distress, so much war, and so much discontent and dissatisfaction, so much protest, so much killing, so much crime, so much intoxication, because happiness is being conceived as being born from the mouth of passion. But Krishna says that content and satisfaction is born of goodness. That's we find in Bhagavad Gita. This is a specific quality of goodness, that it brings contentment and happiness. But who thinks like this? That there is a story of Srila Prabhupada of this Brahmin who had his own school. I think it was in Krishnanagar. He was learned. He was brilliant. He was simple. He was pure. He lived with whatever the students brought him. Whatever it was, he was satisfied with it. So the king found out that his pure soul, about his pure soul, and went to him and said, "You are living in such poverty. Such a person like you does not need to live in such type of poverty. What do you want, and I'll get it for you?" He said, "I don't need anything. The students come and they bring me some rice every day. And I have a tamarind tree here, and I take a few leaves of that and I boil it with the rice, and that's okay, thank you." So it's a complete different concept. It cannot be imitated by us. Just whatever you have, be grateful for it. This is the attitude of gratitude, being thankful for whatever you have, rather than being disgruntled and discontent. If you are happy with what you have, then you are happy. If you are not happy with what you have, then you will not going to be happy with whatever you have. That text 25 again. That material existence causes discontent in regard to fulfilling one's lusty desires and achieving more and more money. This is the cause for the continuation of material life, which is full of repeated birth and death. But when we are satisfied by that which is obtained by destiny, is fit for liberation from this material existence. So how much money do we need to feel secure? If one is satisfied by that which is obtained by destiny, one is fit for liberation, and it brings one to the mode of goodness. One in the mode of goodness is peaceful and can go beyond the material world, because he's peaceful. He's at the doorway of knowledge. 26 and 27. A Brahman who is satisfied with whatever is providentially obtained is increasingly enlightened with spiritual power. But the spiritual potency of a dissatisfied Brahman decreases as fire diminishes in potency when water is sprinkled upon it. Therefore, O king, from you, the best of those who give charity, ask only 3 paces of land. By such a gift I shall be very pleased, for the way of happiness is to be fully satisfied to receive that which is absolutely needed. Now, I will go back and read a few points of the purport. This is text, purport text 21. that it's in the second paragraph. Yeah. Yes. Trying to see the point that I wanted to make. Yeah. In modern civilization, there is no education. Everyone tries to possess more and more, and everyone is dissatisfied and unhappy. It's at the end. The Krishna conscious movement is therefore establishing various farms, especially in America, to show how to be happy and content with a minimum necessity of life and save time for self-realization, which one can very easily achieve by chanting the mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Then the purport of text 24. If happiness is the ultimate goal of life, one must be satisfied that with the position in which he is placed by Providence. That this instruction is also given by Prahlad Maharaj. Sukam aindriya kam teja deya yogena deinam savatra labate devat yatadukam ayatnata. My dear friends born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. This philosophy is perfect in regard to obtaining happiness. Real happiness is described in Bhagavad Gita, Sukam Matyantkam Yatad Buddhiham Atindriyam, Vetriyat Natshevayam, Tita Sulati, Tatvataha. That in the spiritual joy state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. One has to perceive happiness by the super senses. The super senses are not the senses of the material element. Every one of us is a spiritual being, Aham Brahmasmi, and every one of us is an individual person. Our senses are not covered by the material elements because of ignorance. We consider the material senses that cover us are real senses. So one has to perceive happiness by the super senses. So being satisfied with whatever we receive by providence and try to get transcendental happiness. One has that, but once one has that, then one cannot depart from that because that brings us full satisfaction. That so then Srila Prabhupada continues in the purport. The real senses, however, are within the material covering. The inasmin chata deha. Within the covering of the material elements are the spiritual senses. Sarvopad vinirmuktam tat parat vananirmilam. When the spiritual senses are uncovered, by the senses, by these senses we can be happy. Satisfaction of the spiritual senses is thus described. Rishikena sevnam bhaktir uchate. We will discuss a question at the end related to this purport and what Lord Vamadev said before. When the senses are engaged in devotional service to Rishikesh, then the senses are completely satisfied. Without this superior knowledge of sense gratification, one may to try to satisfy his material senses, but happiness will never be possible. One may increase his ambition for sense gratification and even achieve what he desires for the gratification of his senses. But because this is on a material platform, he will never achieve satisfaction and contentment. According to Brahminical culture, one should be content with whatever he obtains without special endeavor and should cultivate spiritual consciousness. Then he will be happy. The purpose of Krishna consciousness movement is to spread his understanding. People do not have scientific spiritual knowledge mistakenly think that the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are escapists trying to avoid material activities, but in fact, however, we are engaged in real activities for obtaining the ultimate happiness in life. If one is not trained to satisfy the spiritual senses and continues immaterial sense gratification, he will never obtain happiness that is eternal and blissful. Srimad Bhagavatam 551 is a verse of King Rishabhadev, Tapo divyam putkayena satyam satyayasmavam sakyam panantam. One must practice austerity so that this existential position will be purified. We will achieve unlimited, blissful life. So we should satisfy Krishna's senses. That's the point here. And not our petty material desires. Because that brings dissatisfaction, discontent. There are so many people in third world countries, and they want to go to the first world countries, the United States of America, because they are poor and they are thinking that their poverty is the cause of their unhappiness. But are the people in the first countries, are they satisfied? You read the news today, everything is good there. But are they happy? It is deep ignorance. That's what it is. On the other hand, in the villages in India, where there's no electricity, everyone is happy. Interesting. I read text 27 again. Therefore, King, from you, the best of those who give charity, I ask only 3 paces of land. By such a gift I shall be very pleased, for the way of happiness is to be fully satisfied to receive that which is absolutely needed. Now, Vamandev is reiterating that he only wants 3 paces of land. But actually, there is a lot beyond these 3 steps. Those 3 steps, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It looks very small, but there is immense power behind this very small form. We need to prepare us for hearing the 10th canto. We need to prepare us for hearing about Krishna. Vamandev will show this immense power to the size of the universe. But the Lord, even as a small baby, he does not need to expand as a small baby. Even as an infant, he can kill great demons and lift Govardhan at the age of 7. This is preparing us for the form of Krishna when we hear in the 10th canto. From Vamandev, we can learn that whatever form the Lord takes, he has enormous power. Now we will read a few verses till 32. So 28. Sukadev Goswami continued when the Supreme Personality of Godhead has thus spoken to Bali Maharaj. Bali smiled. Bali smiled and told him, all right, take whatever you like. to confirm his promise to give Vamandev the desired land, he took up his water pot. But now, what's happening? Understanding the Lord's purpose, Lord Vishnu's purpose, Shukracharya, the best of the learned, immediately spoke as follows to his disciple, who was about to offer everything to Lord Vamandev. Shukracharya said, O son of Virojan, this brahmachari in the form of a dwarf is directly the imperishable Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, accepting Kashyapa Muni as his father and Aditi as his mother. He now appeared in order to fulfill the interest of the demigods. You do not know what a dangerous position you have accepted by promising to give him land. I do not think that this promise is good for you. It will bring great harm to the demons. This person falsely appearing as a brahmachari is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who has come in this form to take away all your land, wealth, beauty, power, fame, and education. And after taking everything from you, he will deliver it to Indra, your enemy. So Brahmins, these powerful Brahmins, they could see past, present, and future. He sees what is happening and he says, this is Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu, who comes to cheat you. Don't give it to your enemies. After so much work, we got the heavenly planets, and now you give it away like that. So what is the meaning of the word Hari? Hari means one who takes everything away. So we'll read the purport of 32. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in this regard that the word Hari means one who takes away. If one connects himself with Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord takes away all his miseries. He takes all his miseries. So, is that not nice? But we are afraid that he will come, that he will take something else away besides our miseries, right? So it says, and in the beginning, the Lord also superficially appears to take away all his material possessions, reputation, education, and beauty. And then you have this verse of 1088:8 of the Bhagavatam. And that verse will be a theme, the theme of this chapter of Bali Maharaj, this verse. That's Yasyananagrina Miyarishi Tattanam Sanai. The Lord said to Bali Maharaj that the Lord said to Maharaj Yudhishthira, that's in the 10th canto. The first installment of my mercy toward the devotee is that I take all his possessions, especially his material opulence, his money. This is a special favor of the Lord to a sincere devotee. If a sincere devotee wants Krishna above everything, but at the same time is attached to material possessions, which hinders his advancement in Krishna consciousness, by tactics, the Lord takes away all his possessions. Here Shukracharya says that this dwarf brahmachari would take everything. Thus he indicates that the Lord will take away all one's material possessions and also one's mind. If one delivers his mind to the lotus feet of Krishna, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindaya, one can naturally sacrifice everything to satisfy him. Although Bali Maharaj was a devotee, he was attached to material possessions. And therefore the Lord, being very kind to him, showed him special favor by appearing as Lord Vaman to take away all his material possessions and his mind as well. So, can you give examples? You can write in the chat, but you have only 30 seconds time because we have to move on. But just names of devotees mentioned in the Bhagavatam who are attached to material possessions and want to be attached to Krishna at the same time. So please, so attached to possessions and attached to Krishna at the same time. Dhruva Maharaj, yes. Other names? There are a few others that not only Dhruva Maharaj, so many in the Bhagavatam. That, so who else was attached to material possessions? And that Yudhishthira Maharaj, I don't think so. Kardama Muni, also not. They were real transcendentalists. They were pure devotees. Devahuti, she says, yes, she said to Kardama Muni when he was leaving, that that's now you are leaving. And I'm fed up with with all the disturbance of my senses. We were losing our time. Before you give me something spiritual. Yes, devotee, in some sense. But Daksha is a more clear example. That, and what about Chitraketu? That Chitraketu, that Aditi, yes, we have heard that, that's true. That Avanti Brahman before, yes, but he gave it up. He overcame it. That's the example mentioned in this first Yasyam Anugrinami, to the Avanti Brahman. And Indra, yes, Indra is a devotee, but he's attached. That, and he lost the heavenly plants and get it back. Okay, now we continue. This is story from Atma Tattva, Prabhu, about Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, in this case, was in the position of Vamandev. Interesting story. A rich Indian man said to Srila Prabhupada, I have a factory in Delhi and a factory in Jaipur. He listed everything he had and said, I have all this, but I can't sleep, he said. You can't, and Srila Prabhupada said, you can't sleep because you have so many things. Give them to me, and then you can sleep peacefully. Then he turned to someone, Srila Prabhupada turned to someone and said, take his address. And the man said, no, Swamiji, not necessary. I can come anytime. But Srila Prabhupada insisted. He said, you should always be able to come. We should also be able to come to you anytime. Take his address. And the man said, no, Swamiji. So it is because he knows here is Vamandev coming to take everything. Srila Prabhupada said, if you give some of your things to Krishna, then you will be peaceful. So the man was smashed and he gave his address. So this was Srila Prabhupada in a mood of Vamandev. That there is another example of the mother of Brahmananda and Garga Muni. That Brahmananda said, my mother went to see Srila Prabhupada as she sat on a metal folding chair meant for VIPs. His mother said to Srila Prabhupada, "What are you doing with my boys?" Srila Prabhupada said, "I'm taking care of your sons. I'm feeding them, looking after them. Actually, we have no income here. Maybe you like to give some donation." And the mother looked at the boys and the Prabhupada and said, "Donation? I've already given a donation. I donated my sons." And Srila Prabhupada said, "Oh yes, very good." So this is Krishna consciousness. Someone cannot sleep at night because they have problems with wealth. Srila Prabhupada said, "We solve your problem for you. We will take away your wealth." So now, again, Vamandev is going to solve Bali Maharaj's problem. But Sukracharya, his guru, does not want this to happen. He's telling Bali Maharaj, tell him no. Because Sukracharya did all these sacrifices and brought Maharaj to power, to the heavenly planets, and when Bali loses his power, then Sukracharya will lose his position. So, and his maintenance. So the instruction of his guru is here, don't worship Vishnu, don't give to Vishnu. What is fortunate from the material perspective is very different from what is fortunate from the spiritual perspective. If someone loses everything in this world, people will think, oh, this person is so unfortunate. He has lost his money, his computer, his cell phone. How shall he live without these things? So that is the way of material vision. But spiritual vision is, oh, he lost these burdens. So we are in the ocean of nations. While we are trying to swim in the ocean, we are carrying so many things. When we try to swim carrying all these things, what will happen? We will sink to the bottom. And that is the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion. We can't stay in the mode of goodness. So we more or less lose these things when we are not using them in Krishna's service. They are a burden. If we can use everything in Krishna's service, then that's okay. But here Bali Maharaj is not supposed to be the king of heaven. He's supposed to be the king of the demons and be in the lower planets. He's not supposed to be there. He's actually overthrowing the management of the universe, as we have heard. He's creating a disturbance, and that is not pleasing to Krishna. But actually, this material world, we need to find out what is pleasing Krishna in this material world. What are the two words describing Krishna consciousness renunciation? Yukta Vairagya. If we have things and we can use them in Krishna's service, then it's all right. Pujan Prabhu said, we must gradually move towards Krishna. We can't move too quickly, he said. What happens if you surrender all at once if you are not ready? It bounces back on you. If you are not at all on the level of surrender, then you will go back to your real level of advancement before. So therefore Pujan Prabhu said that we give up the shackles of matter slowly. This is gradually, step-by-step path. And there is also Atma Nivedanam. Atma Nivedanam, that's a direct path. When Srila Prabhupada was there, the preaching was, if you don't live in the temple, then you are in Maya. The beginning of the 70s was like that. That means all your money and your possessions you give to the temple. That was the preaching. And if you don't do that, you can't be a devotee. Now, here is, of course, all these hippies, they didn't have much to give them. No. there is congregational preaching. There are so many devotees living outside the temple today. Who lives in the temple? Only a few. So Bhujam Prabhu Sutter wrote that Krishna will hear the prayers of the Sharanagati devotees attentively, but other prayers not so attentively. Interesting. And Krishna sometimes forces the issue. He takes everything away so that no one has any choice other than to turn to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said that he thought he would make a lot of money for preaching, but Krishna took his whole business away from him. Don't be surprised if that may happen sometimes, but it's the best thing that can happen to you. You get a wonderful feeling on depending on Krishna. If Krishna takes all your relations and relatives and friends away, then you have only Krishna to depend on. So Bali Maharaj, we will see his determination despite neglecting his Guru's advice. Now Sukacharya is speaking. Text 33. You have promised to give him 3 steps of land in charity, but when you give it, he will occupy the 3 worlds. You are a rascal. You do not know what a great mistake you have made. After giving everything to Lord Vishnu, you will have no means of livelihood. How shall you live? And also, Sukacharya was thinking, and how shall I live? He was thinking. Purport of 33. Bali Maharaj might argue that he had promised only 3 steps of land. But Sukacharya, being a very learned Brahmin, immediately understood that this was a plan of Hari, who had falsely appeared there as a brahmachari. The words Muda Vartiyase Katam reveal that Sukacharya was a Brahmin of the priestly class. Such priestly Brahmins are mostly interested in receiving remuneration from their disciples. Therefore, when Sukacharya saw that Bali Maharaj had risked all of his possessions, he understood that this would cause havoc not only to the king, but also to the family of Sukacharya, who was dependent on Bali Maharaj's mercy. This is the difference between a Vaishnava and a Smarta Brahman. A Smarta Brahman is always interested in material profit. Therefore, whereas a Vaishnava is interested only in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the statement of Sukacharya, it appears that he was, in all respects, a Smarta Brahman, interested only in personal gain. Now, you may be thinking, if I surrender to Krishna, how will I be maintained? Sukacharya said that you won't be truthful if you deny his request. When he takes everything in 2 steps, will you allow him to put his 3rd step? Where will you allow him to put his 3rd step? Of course, Sukacharya does not know that Lord Vamandev will give Bali Maharaj the intelligence where to put the 3rd step. I'm reading here from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 3, text 85. This is Advaitacharya speaking to Nityananda. Says to Nityananda, you are a reject Paramahamsa, and you have accepted renounced order of life just to fill up your belly. I can understand that your business is to give trouble to the Brahmins. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the difference between Smarta Brahmins and Vaishnava Goswamis. He writes, by calling Nityananda Prabhu a Brasta Avaduta, a rejected Paramahamsa, in a sense accepted Nityananda as Paramahamsa. In other words, Nityananda has nothing to do with the rules governing Smarta Brahmins. Thus, under the pretense of condemning him, Advaitacharya was actually praising him. So what is a Smarta Brahman? How do we know when someone is a Smarta Brahman? So I will now list a number of characteristics of Smarta Brahmins. First, a Smarta Brahman believes in qualification by birth. They think if you are not born in a Brahmin family, then you don't have any qualification. You are a Brahmin by birth. Second, they are only interested in material gain. Third point, they are more interested in rituals than in the details. In Nectar of Instruction, we have heard about Niyama Arha, too much interested in following the rules. So we know in Krishna book, the coward boys on behalf of Krishna and Balaram, they went to beg food from these Brahmins. So they ignored the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the wives, they were transcendentalists, and they would appreciate Krishna and Balaram. Yes, the Smarta Brahman is attached to the rules, so engrossed in the details that the foremost principle escaped them. A fourth characteristic of a Smarta Brahman, they are not devotional. Srila Prabhupada would say they are using silas to crack the nuts. And then fifth, the Karma Kandiya practitioners is concerned with sacrifices for elevation to heavenly planets. And that's where the sacrifices Sukacharya was doing. Concerned with sacrifices to go to the heavenly planets. So these are Smarta Brahmins. They oppress other people, they give others trouble, they are proud because they are born in a certain family. And mostly, sixth characteristic, mostly, they are also impersonalist. They don't believe in the Lord as Supreme, although they may worship Lord Vishnu, but not in a devotional way, but in an official way. In the purport of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 385, Srila Prabhupada says further, in the Paramahamsa stage, which is the supremest stage, one may appear to be a Visayi on the platform of sense gratification, but in actuality, he has nothing to do with sense gratification. At that stage, a person sometimes accepts the symbols and dress of a sannyasi and sometimes does not. Sometimes he is dressed like a householder. So we can think about which Smarta Brahman in Chaitanya Lila became transformed into Vaishnava. It was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Further in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this Madhya Lila, chapter 12, text 180. After serving the Bhattacharya with first-class prasadam, Gopinath Acharya said, just consider what the Bhattacharya's previous mundane behavior was. Just consider how at present he is enjoying transcendental bliss. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was previously a Smarta Brahman, that is, one who strictly follows the Vedic principles on the mundane platform. On the mundane platform, one cannot believe that prasadam is transcendental, that Govinda is the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or that a Vaishnava is a liberated person. These transcendental considerations are out of the ordinary Vedic scholars' jurisdiction. Most Vedic scholars are called Vedantists. These so-called followers of Vedanta philosophy consider the absolute truth to be impersonal. They also believe the person born in a particular caste cannot change his caste until he dies and takes rebirth. The Smarta Brahmins reject the fact that Mahaprasad, food offered to the deities, is transcendental and materially uncontaminated. Originally, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was subjected to all rules and regulations of Vedic principles on the mundane platform. Now, Gopinath Acharya pointed out how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had been converted by the causeless mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Being converted, Sarvabhauma took prasadam with the Vaishnavas. Indeed, he sat by the side of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These are some Smarta Brahmins living in Vrindavan, and they refuse to come taking prasad at our temple because they don't consider us Brahmins, so they cannot eat. They refuse invitation. They also don't believe in the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was also previously an impersonalist. Before Bhattacharya would not even eat with the Vaishnavas. And now he's eating with Lord Chaitanya. This is the mercy of the Lord. We will hear about Kripa Siddhis later today. That text 34. Vamandev will first occupy the 3 walls with 1 step. And then he will take a second step and occupy everything in outer space. And then he will expand the universal body to occupy everything. And where will you offer him the 3rd step? The Srila Prabhupada gives a wonderful purport here, that Sukacharya wanted to tell Bali Maharaj how he would be cheated by Lord Vamandev. You have promised 3 steps, he said. But with only 2 steps, all your possessions will be finished. How then will you give him a 3rd step? Sukacharya did not know that how the Lord protects his devotee. The devotee must risk everything in the possession for the service of the Lord, but is always protected and never defeated. By materialistic calculations, Sukacharya thought that Bali Maharaj would under no circumstances be able to keep his promise to the Brahmachari, Lord Vamandev. So we can see here, Sukacharya wanted to, we see that Sukacharya, he had a greater vision than Bali Maharaj. He knew what was going to happen, how Vamandev would occupy the universe, but his vision was limited because he did not have devotion. He did not have the highest vision of a Mahatma, and he can do anything for the service of the Lord. Although Bali Maharaj was in the position of a disciple, he had a higher vision. His guru was a Karmakanda guru. He was not a Vaishnava guru. Therefore, we will see that there will be a conflict between the guru and the disciple here. That it's 35 and 36. You will certainly be unable to fulfill your promise. And I think that because of this inability, your eternal residence will be in hell. Learned scholars do not praise that charity which endangers one's own livelihood, charity, sacrifice, austerity, and fruitive activities are possible for one who is competent to earn his livelihood properly. they are not possible for one who cannot maintain himself. So if you give everything in charity, Shukracharya said, how will you maintain yourself? Here is some advice by Shukracharya how one should spend one's money and be happy. And that advice in text 37, we will hear after the break. But before we break up, I will bring on the screen a question. Explain in one sentence why a man with uncontrolled senses can never be satisfied. What then causes contentment? Try to write that all in one sentence. You can post it in the chat. So the question will remain on the screen during the break. You can write the answer in the chat, but look first again at verses 21 and 24 purport. So we will now have a break. That the time is now 5 o'clock. Let's see, we will resume at 5:15. 5:15. Answer shortly this question and take a break. Get up and take a break. So 5:15, we will resume. Thank you. Hare Krishna, we will now continue with chapter 19, and here also the first verse of chapter 20. We will hear now the advice of Sukacharya, how one should spend one's money and be happy. Text 37. Dharmaya yasase ritaya kamaya svachanaya cha panchada vibhajam vitam yamutra samudate. Therefore, one who is in full knowledge should divide his accumulated wealth in 5 parts: for religion, for reputation, for opulence, for sense gratification, and for the maintenance of his family members. such a person is happy in this world and in the next. Purport. The Shastras enjoin that if one has money, one should divide all the money accumulated in 5 divisions. 1 part for religion, 1 part for reputation, 1 part for opulence, 1 part for sense gratification, 1 part to maintain the family members of his family. At present, however, because people are bereft of all knowledge, they spend all their money for the satisfaction of their family. Srila Rupa Goswami taught us by his own example by using 50% of his accumulated wealth for Krishna, 25% for himself and 25% for the family members. One's main purpose should be to advance in Krishna consciousness. This will include Dharma, Artha and Kama. However, because one's family members expect some profit, one should also satisfy them by giving them a portion of one's accumulated wealth. That is the Shastric injunction. So that is, we see Srila Prabhupada gives us another advice in the purport. So this is repeated quite often in Srila Prabhupada's purport, that the 50% for Krishna, 50% for oneself, 50% for Krishna, 25% for yourself, and 25% for the members of the family. If you don't give them, they will complain. So you have to live in this world and you have to satisfy everyone. So if you actually follow this instruction, then that is pure devotional service, giving 50% to Krishna, 25% for oneself, and 25% for family members. This is for Grihasthas to follow. So this is a detail on how to fulfill the principle of dividing wealth. Srila Prabhupada gives the detail how to do it in this purport, as we have heard. So in text 38, Srila Prabhupada gives, Shukracharya gives this more advice. It's going to take, to act like a clever lawyer now, Shukracharya. He will find a loophole in what Bali Maharaj said already. 38. One might argue that since you have already promised, how can you refuse? O best of the demons, just take for me the evidence of Bhavricha Shruti, which says that the promise is truthful, preceded by the word Om, and untruthful if not. So here he gives a technical reason. He said, you are not going to break your promise because you did not say Om. It's not a promise at all. If you say Om, then it's truth, he said. Quite technical reason. And he quotes a scripture called Bhavriti Shruti, because it seems to be a grammatical term. It is actually misusing the Vedas. One of the Shastric aims is academic integrity. Don't twist the scriptures for your own personal gain. Text 39. The Vedas enjoy that the factual result of the tree of the body is the good fruits and flowers derived from it. But if the body tree does not exist, there is no possibility of factual fruits and flowers. Even if the body is based on untruth, there cannot be factual fruits and flowers without the help of the bodily tree. Now he will become philosophical, Shukracharya. And so you need your body, he says. Without money, you will how you will maintain it. This is the important thing. Maintain your body, he says. So in the purport, we have 6 lines down. Without the help of the body, one cannot follow a system of religion, nor can one speculate on philosophical perfection. So these are 2 paths. They are called Upasana Kanda and Jnana Kanda. If you don't have a body, then how can you follow them? So, therefore, the flower and the fruit, pushpam phalam, have to be obtained as a result of the body. Without the help of the body, that fruit cannot be gained. The Vaishnava philosophy therefore recommends yukta vairagya. It is not that all attention should be diverted to the maintenance of the body, but at the same time one's bodily maintenance should not be neglected. So it is not that we let the body die. We need the body. Although we are not a body, we need it actually. Prahlad Maharaj said, we have this gift of human life. We should understand how to use this gift. Bhujam Prabhu says that you have to maintain your body just like you have to maintain a car. Especially when you get older, then you need to take care of the body, otherwise it just deteriorates. Why do we take so much trouble? It's to serve Krishna. But don't make the body the center. That's the point. Text 40. When a tree is uprooted, it immediately falls down and begins to dry up. Similarly, if one doesn't take care of the body, which is supposed to be untruth, in other words, if the untruth is uprooted, the body undoubtedly becomes dry. So it is really twisting the philosophy here, that to get Bala Maharaj to say no. He's trying to convince him in various ways. So we agree, we must take care of the body. How? Bhagavad Gita says in the 6th chapter, the 16 you must remember, Nastas natasta yogisti nashakantam anashnatam nachati svapasilasya jagato naivacharyanam. How you can perform yoga if you eat too much or too little. So what should we do? Bhagavad Gita 6:17. Yukta vyarasya yukta sesya karmasu yukta swapna babodasya yoga bhavati dukkaha. One who is regulating his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all the material pains by practicing the yoga system. If we do that, then we will be a yogi. This is the practice of yoga. So Prabhupada said, for a devotee, there is no work. It's all recreation, he said. But still, if you are on a marathon, 24 hours a day, it's very difficult. We will need regulation to live in the mode of goodness. Read the purport. No, so, in this regard, the Srila Rupa Goswami says, Prapanchikataya buddhya harisambhani vastanam mamuksabi parichayo varahyam falhu katyate. One who rejects things without knowledge of their relationship with Krishna is incomplete in his renunciation. Thus, Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu 12266. Srila Prabhupada is agreeing with Krishna, with Sukacharya, but he's agreeing in a Krishna conscious way. That he says, yes, when the body is engaged in the service of the Lord, one should not consider the material body. When the body is engaged in the service of the Lord, one should not consider the body material. That's the point. Sometimes the spiritual body of the spiritual master is misunderstood. But Srila Rupa Goswami instructs Prapanchakatya Bhutya Harisamanavastana. The body fully engaged in Krishna's service should not be neglected. One who does not neglect, it is false. One who does neglect, it is false in his renunciation. If the body is not properly maintained, it falls down and dries up like an uprooted tree, from which flower and fruit can no longer be obtained. And then you have this long quote on the Vedas. I read the translation or the purport. The purport is that activities performed with the help of the body for the satisfaction of the absolute truth, Om Tat Sat, are never temporary, although performed by the temporary body. Indeed, such activities are everlasting. Therefore, the body should be properly cared, because the body is temporary, not permanent. One cannot expose the body to being devoured by a tiger and killed by an enemy. All precautions should be taken to protect the body. So Sukacharya says, if you serve Krishna, then you will lose everything. So he's saying, don't do it. That the body is a tree to bear fruits for Krishna's service. That is the lesson we should learn. This is not our body, but Krishna's body, given to us for his service. That is the highest realization. It is not my body, it is Krishna's body. 41. That the utterance of the word Om signifies separation from one's monetary assets. In other words, by uttering this word, one becomes free from attachment to money, because his money is taken away from him. To be without money is not very satisfactory, for in that position one cannot fulfill one's desires. In other words, by using the word Om, one becomes poverty-stricken, especially when one gives in charity to a poor man or beggar. One remains unfulfilled in self-realization and in sense gratification. So in other words, by using the word Om, one becomes poverty-stricken, he says. He's painting a very dismal picture of what is going to happen when you have no money. You will lose your sense gratification, poverty-stricken. He's painting the worst scenario. So whatever you do, don't say Om, he said. If you do, you will lose everything. So that was in the Vedic times. So his guru said, okay, but just don't say Om. We will read near the end of the first paragraph of text 41. So let's see. Even though there are so many charitable institutions, poverty has not been driven from human society. Therefore, it is recommended here, Bhiksha Vesarvam Om Kurvan Na Lam Kamena Chatmane. One should give everything. One should not give everything to the beggars among the poor. So Srila Prabhupada writes, the best solution is that of the Krishna consciousness movement. This movement is always kind to the poor, not only because it feeds them, but also because it gives them enlightenment by teaching them how to become Krishna consciousness. So there is an article in an old Back to Godhead written by Vishnu Chan Maharaj, and he had an outline how to help the poor. The devotees should bring prasadam to them, teaching them how to chant and how to make an altar in their house and offer everything to Krishna. Then they will become happy, even if they are poor. He had such a huge program how to do that. Yes, we continue Srila Prabhupada's purport that we are therefore opening hundreds and thousands of centers for those who are poor, both in money and in knowledge, to enlighten them in Krishna consciousness and reform their character by teaching them how to avoid illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, gambling, which are the most sinful activities and which cause people to suffer life after life. The best way to use money is to open such centers where all may live and reform their character. They may live very comfortably without the denial of any of the body's necessities, but they live under spiritual control, and thus they live happily and save time for advancement in Krishna consciousness. If one has money, it should not be squandered away on nothing. It should be used to push forward to the Krishna consciousness movement, so that all human society will become happy, prosperous, and hopeful of being promoted back home, back to Godhead. The Vedic mantra in this regard reads as follows. And then you have the quote at the end of the purport. So the point is that our temporary needs should be dealt with in such a way that we make spiritual advancement. That constitutional and unconditional needs have to be balanced. The body is a lost cause, but we can spiritualize it, use it in Krishna's service. And Bhujan Prabhu, he tells a little story that when Srila Prabhupada was asked what he expected when he came to the West, he thought that he would be sent straight back to India. So many gurus were there before him, and they were saying so much nonsense. You can enjoy and still be spiritual. When Srila Prabhupada met some bogus Hatha Yoga guru in Hong Kong, and the guru was eating breakfast with his disciple, and his disciple was a meat eater. At the meal, the disciple did not eat any meat, and the guru asked, "Why are you not eating your meat?" And the disciple said, "Well, I don't want to do it in front of you. You are vegetarian." And then the guru said, "Does the tiger eat the same thing as the other animals?" So he sanctioned him to eat meat. So this is going on with bogus gurus. They will compromise with the principles. Allen Ginsberg told Srila Prabhupada that one guru told him, LSD is like Jesus, that LSD is a hard drug, in case you don't know. And LSD is like Jesus, and it will give you liberation. Srila Prabhupada replied, LSD is material. How can you get liberation? Ravinda Swaruprabhu, when he first heard the full regulative principles of Srila Prabhupada, he thought at least one person has the courage to say the truth. You have to follow these four relative principles. So this is Srila Prabhupada. But Shukracharya is not as Srila Prabhupada. He's a Smarta Brahman. So he's preaching in a Smarta Brahman Karma Kandiya way. Now he's giving all his arguments. Text 42. Therefore, the safe course is you say no. That although it is a falsehood, it protects one completely. It draws the compassion of others toward oneself, and it gives one full facility to collect money from others for oneself. Nonetheless, if one always pleads that he is nothing, he is condemned, for he is a dead body while living or still breathing, he should be killed. So he gives both sides of the argument. So we discussed before 5 kinds of religion at the end of Canto 7. You remember these types of religion or Vidharma, Shaladharma. Shaladharma means using jugglery to cheat people. So here we see an example of Shaladharma and word jugglery by Shukracharya. We read in the purport, the last sentence. If one continuously poses himself as possessing nothing and collect money by begging, he should be killed. Sainam tatraiva anyat. So Srila Prabhupada agrees with some of the statements now. He agrees with some of the statements, but now the ultimate argument is the last verse. It is okay to lie, and he gives examples when you can lie. Text 43. In flattering a woman to bring her under control, in joking, in a marriage ceremony, in earning one's livelihood when one's life is in danger, in protecting cows and Brahmanical culture, or in protecting a person from an enemy's hand, falsity is never condemned. So in which category here is Bali Maharaj? Vriti Artha, for earning one's livelihood, or the enemy is coming to cheat you? Which category of Shastra would this come under? Mostly Artha Shastra. Artha Shastra is how to get wealth, how to maintain one's livelihood. Or Dharma Shastra, protecting cows, Brahmanical culture. It's a mixture. It seems to be a mixture of Artha and Dharma Shastra, but mostly Artha Shastra. Artha Shastra saying means for your own gain. Yes, it was also taught by Sanna and Amarka, and Prahlad Maharaj rejected it. It was based on friends and enemies. Prahlad Maharaj said, I cannot understand that someone can be your enemy. So I've heard from Chaitanya Bhagavat. Of course, we have also in Bhagavad Gita first chapter, Arjuna's argument based on Artha Shastra and Dharma Shastra. He said, yes, it says that those who are transgressors of religion, that they can be killed. And there are 5 kinds. That don't remember them all. One who steals one's wife, one who burns one's house, and so on. One who attacks you, one who steals your wealth, they can be killed. And that is what Artha Shastra says. That because Krishna, before it said transgressors of religion, they can be killed. But then Arjuna said, but that's Artha Shastra, but Dharma Shastra is higher. And Dharma Shastra says you cannot kill your relatives. So it's arguing based on the Shastras, Arjuna also. So in Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Lila 19th chapter, verses 46 to 61, there's a passage of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And one is a sannyasi who is of the category of this type of guru. So Nityananda said to Lord Chaitanya, Vishvambar offered obeisance to the sannyasis, seeing Vishvambar's beautiful form and smiling, the sannyasi offered in various benedictions. They say, may you achieve wealth, family, good life, and learning. So what he offered that these benedictions to Lord Chaitanya, that you will achieve wealth, family, good life, and learning. What's Lord Chaitanya going to reply to that? He said, O Gosai, it is not a benediction, rather you should say, you may attain the mercy of Krishna. A benediction for devotional service to the Lord is inexhaustible and indestructible. What you have said, O Gosai, does not befit you. The sannyasi smiled and said, I've now directly experienced what I have heard about. If good advice is given, then people will chase you with a stick. The behavior of this son of a Brahmin is just like that. He found fault in me. Why do you criticize my benediction? If one has to take birth in this world and does not enjoy sense gratification and beautiful women and does not accumulate wealth, what is the use of life? Tell me, if you have devotion to Vishnu, what will you eat? So he's just like Shukracharya. And Lord Chaitanya replied, we will certainly eat what is destined to our karma. If family and wealth is the aim of life, tell me, why are they taken away at the time of death? O Gosai, try to understand what is good and what is bad. There is no other benediction other than devotional service to Krishna. So this is another type of this gurus, this karma kandiya gurus, that so now that what will Bali Maharaj do? That he will have to reject the instructions of his guru. What will he do? Text 1 of chapter 20. Bali Maharaj surrenders the universe. Sisuka uvacha Bali evan grihapati kulachayena pasita tishtushnim budvaksham rajam uvacha vaito gurum. Bali Maharaj is the translation. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, O King Parikshit, when Bali Maharaj was thus advised by his spiritual master Sukracharya, his family priest, he remained silent for some time. And then after full deliberation, he replied to his spiritual master as follows. So Bali Maharaj is ready to give everything to Lord Vaman. But his guru is intervening, and he gives so many arguments why he should not give to Lord Vamandev. What are some of the arguments we heard? He said, unless you chant Om, it's not a promise. How will you maintain yourself when you lose everything? You won't have any place for you to put your third step, and you won't be able to fulfill your promise. It's okay to lie if it's for your maintenance, but the ultimate purpose of the Shastra says is to please Krishna. Here now Bali Maharaj is just deliberating. How is he going to reply to his guru? And to Vamandev, who is standing before him. So here it is, purport of this first text. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that Bali Maharaj remained silent at a critical point. How could he disobey the instruction of Sukracharya, his spiritual master? It is the duty of such a sober personality as Bali Maharaj to abide by the orders of his spiritual master. That immediately, as the spiritual master had advised, but Bali Maharaj also considered that Sukracharya was no longer to accept it as a spiritual master, for he had deviated from the duty of a spiritual master. According to Shastra, the duty of a guru is to take the disciple back home, back to Godhead. If he is unable to do so, and instead hinders the disciple in going back to Godhead, he should not be a guru. And Srila Prabhupada quotes the verse, Guru Nasasya, one should not become a guru if he cannot enable his disciple to advance in Krishna consciousness. The goal of life is to become a devotee of Lord Krishna, so that one may be freed from the bondage of material existence. The spiritual master helps the disciple to attain this stage by developing Krishna consciousness. Now, Sukracharya had advised Bali Maharaj to deny the promise of Vamandev. Under the circumstances, therefore, Bali Maharaj thought that there would be no fault if he disobeyed the order of his spiritual master. He deliberated on this point. Should he refuse to accept the advice of his spiritual master, or should he independently do everything to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead? It took some time. Therefore, it is said, Dushmin Bhuttvaksham Rajam Uvatsha Vaito Gurum. After deliberating on this point, he decided that Lord Vishnu should be pleased in all circumstances, even at the risk of ignoring the Guru's advice to the contrary. Anyone who is supposed to be Guru, but who goes against the principles of Vishnu Bhakti cannot be accepted as a Guru. That's an important sentence. If one has falsely accepted such a Guru, one should reject him. Such a Guru is described as follows. Gurunyapi palapliptasya karya karyam ajanata upaita pratipannasya patichaya vidiyate. Jiva Goswami has advised that unless that such a useless Guru, a family priest acting as Guru, should be given up, and that a proper bona fide Guru should be accepted. Sat karmani punavi pramantra tantra visarata. A Vaishnava Guru nasya Vaishnava svapacho Guru. A scholarly Brahmin expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava. But if a person born in a lower caste is a Vaishnava, he can become a spiritual master. Padma Purana. So all those mentioned in this verse have well, of course, then we have this verse of King Rishabhadev, that Guruna Sasya, Jananina Sasya, Pitana Sasya, Jananina Sasya, Devamna Sasya, Napatisna Sasya, Namoksaya Samapeta. One cannot deliver his dependence from the power of repeated birth and death. One should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipful demigod. So all those mentioned here have a responsibility toward his dependents to deliver them from birth, death, old age, and disease. Here we have a karma kanda Guru, and we have a pure devotee, Bali Maharaj. One is a Brahmin and the other is a demon, Kshatriya. A demon Kshatriya, but actually the higher one is Bali Maharaj. Often we have that in Srimad Bhagavatam, that the pure devotee is a demon instead of a devotee. In Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.22 in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, one should not become a pseudo-spiritual master as a matter of business to meet one's family expenditures. It is the duty of the spiritual master to deliver the disciple from impending death. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, what is an example of someone who is in a position of a guru, of a Brahmin, who did not act properly? You can put examples in the chat. We have 1 minute. The question again. give examples of someone who was in the position of a guru or a Brahmin, but who did not act as a guru or a Brahmin, who acted improperly. So someone writes, Jamil, yes, he fell down. That's true. That there are many that who rejected others. Shringi, yes, it's good. That Shringi, they should both be rejected as gurus. That we have also like, Ashvatam also, yes. Yes, Ashvatam. The Brahmanas who didn't stop Daksha from offending Lord Shiva. Vashishta Maharajnimi. So many. Thank you. Nice contribution. But we say also, because the verse says also the guru is the father, the mother, the husband. We say Bharat rejected his mother, Kaikeya. Bibhishan rejected his brother Ravan. And the gopis rejected their husband. Prahlad rejected his father. Bali rejected his guru. That's where we are now. Bali Maharaj is about to reject his guru. And we will give all the reasons. We'll also speak the truth, but not in a heavy way. We'll also speak on Shastra and try to convince his guru that what he wants to do is the right thing to do. That he will speak in such a way as not to disturb his demoniac friends. So I have another example here. It has been mentioned in the list you gave, so that's nice. I have another example from Srimad Bhagavatam on someone who failed to do the duties of a Brahmin and therefore was liable to being rejected from the position of a Brahmin. This is the example of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It concerns Ashvatam. Ashvatam failed to perform the duties of a Brahmin, a teacher, and therefore he was liable to be rejected from the exalted position of a Brahmin. On this consideration, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna were right in condemning Ashvatam. Now in Bhagavad Gita, also there is a purport. Bhagavad Gita 2.5, the purport. According to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in an abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. So these are other reasons. This applies in India because there are many gurus who don't have much knowledge, but they are just doing the rituals. Such gurus should be rejected. And then Srimad Bhagavatam 5:14-13. This verse is about the bogus guru. So purport. Sometimes to mitigate the stresses in the forest of the material world, the conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. It then loses all intelligence in their association. This is exactly like jumping into a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. He is not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. The misguided conditioned soul also approaches so-called sadhus who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them, either in the present or in the future. So this is going on. Now Bali is going to speak Sukracharya, and he will point to the proper meaning of the words of Sukracharya. So we will end with this, discussing this second verse and the purport. Bali Maharaj said, as you have already stated, the principle of religion that does not hinder one's economic development, sense gratification, fame, and means of livelihood is the real occupational duty of a householder. I also think that this religious principle is correct. So he's agreeing at first. What you say is correct. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, yes, you should divide your wealth. I agree that is correct. So the purport. Bali Maharaj's grave answer to Shukracharya is meaningful. Shukracharya stressed that one's material means of livelihood and one's material reputation, sense gratification, and economic development must continue properly. To see to this is the first duty of a man who is a householder, especially one who is interested in material affairs. If a religious principle does not affect one's material condition, it is to be accepted. At present, in this age of Kali, this idea is extremely prominent. Just the idea your religion should not interfere with your money making. If your religion interferes with that, it's not good. That's the Kali Yuga idea. So no one is prepared to accept any religious principle if it hampers material prosperity. So they are not interested in like surrender and giving up everything to Krishna, no interest in that. Shukracharya, being a person of this material world, does not know the principles of a devotee. A devotee is determined to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead to his full satisfaction. Now we are getting to the other side. Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us the mentality of Bali Maharaj. So anything that hampers such determination should certainly be rejected. This is the principle of bhakti. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varchanam. To perform devotional service, one must accept only what is favorable and reject that which is unfavorable. Bali Maharaj had the opportunity to contribute everything he possessed to the lotus feet of Vamandev, but Shukracharya was putting forward a material argument to hamper this process of devotional service. Under the circumstances, Bali Maharaj decided that such hindrances should certainly be avoided. In other words, he decided immediately to reject the advice of Shukracharya and go on with his duty. Thus he gave all his possessions to Lord Vamadev. Pujantapuri commented, this verse is good preaching for materialistic persons. You will get a lot of followers when you say this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which will not interfere with your sense gratification, fame, and means of livelihood. So people can twist the Shastra and say, yes, this is in the Bhagavatam, so let me follow this verse, which is a guiding principle of my life. The Bala Maharaj is speaking not to disturb his Guru Maharaj too much. Of course, it's going to disturb him and get cursed, and at least in the beginning is trying to speak nicely and sweetly. So that's also a sign of culture. That nowadays, no one will accept the idea just to try to please God is the goal of life. Bali Maharaj has very deep devotion and he will be tested, and we will see how Vamandev reacts to Bali in his mood also. And Bali Maharaj is teaching us Atma Nivedana. In a lecture of Srila Prabhupada in the early days in the United States, 1966, a lecture on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verses 26-27. That's the verse, Yat karus yat asnyas yat yus dadas yat tapasyaskant yat kusmavadarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer and give away, and whatever austerity you perform, do that as an offering to me. So Krishna is taking the position of Vamandev. So Srila Prabhupada is telling a story. Bali Maharaj was very happy to see Vamandev, and he said, I will give you everything. But then Sukacharya, his guru, said, no, this boy is Vishnu. He's coming to cheat you, don't promise. He's God, and he will take away everything. If you agree to offer something, he will take yourself also. People think like this. God is very intelligent. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, once you engage in Krishna consciousness, there is no way out. You can't escape. You cannot go out. Krishna is so kind. You have to be Krishna conscious. Once you become a devotee, you cannot forget Krishna, even if you try. So the Guru was thinking, if Vishnu takes everything from my disciple, how shall I live? If he becomes a beggar, I become a beggar. So don't promise. Srila Prabhupada takes the part of Bali Maharaj and says, why? He's just a little boy, just give him something. Sukacharya said, no, he's not a little boy, he's God. And then Bali said, oh, he's God? And you are telling me not to give? And formerly you taught me to worship Vishnu? Now he's at my door and you tell me not to give to him. I reject you. I don't want a spiritual master like you. So this is the example of Bali Maharaj and Mahajan, Srila Prabhupada said. But now Bali Maharaj will give reasons why he should not withdraw his promise. And that we will hear tomorrow. So we have got the introduction, chapter 20. Now we will first look at the question. That was the question. Explain one sentence why a man with uncontrolled senses can never be satisfied. What then causes contentment? We can go back in the chat. Yes, senses are like fire and can be satisfied. Any amount of fuel and contentment can come by being satisfied by bare necessities and practicing Krishna consciousness. Chalangi writes, uncontrolled senses will bring unlimited, unsatiated material desires. Only self-control and satisfied with whatever provided by providence can cause contentment. That's a good point. Are we doing that? That we can look in our hearts. That we have so many plans to think, to change. I'm going to change my situation and it will be better. Ram Krishna Prabhu. Uncontrolled senses is like fire, unlimited supply of fuel, and it keeps burning, will never extinguish, as Lord Foundation said. If one gets the land of one Dvipa, one wants another. Narasimha Maharaj. Without contentment, one should not be happy, even if he possesses the property of the entire world. Yugalaprita, fulfilled lust leads to greed. Nitai Madhavpur. Discontent can never bring happiness. The way of happiness is to be satisfied with the position in which he is placed by providence. Providence means Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says in purport of Bhagavad Gita, one should always think that Krishna has put me in this position to perform a particular duty. And so I'd be engaged by him in this duty. Then one will feel satisfied. Hemagopi, material sense can never be satisfied by any amount of gratification. Are we convinced about that, or are we still striving for sense gratification? This Mama Maya Duracia, difficult to realize, but it's true. When sons are engaged in service of Rishikesh, they become fully satisfied. Think of instances you felt very satisfied in your Krishna conscious service. That what was your consciousness, your situation then? So one should practice austerity so that this existential position is purified, and we will achieve unlimited blissful life. Srinivas Gopal. And then one races to the spiritual platform, constitutional position, never come to the point of satisfaction. We have to satisfy the soul or heart, not the body. That's only done by bhakti, love. Krishna Kanai power. Because the senses are material, but satisfaction comes from the spiritual senses, which satisfies when engaged in devotional service. Yeah. Anangamoini. If one's senses are not under control, no amount of material possessions will satisfy him, as he will always want more and more. One can only be satisfied by engaging the senses in Krishna's service or devotional service. Then the senses are controlled. Now, Vilas. One may increase his ambition for sense gratification and achieve what he desires for the gratification of his senses. But because he's on a material platform, he will never achieve satisfaction and contentment. Right? The last one, yeah, Bhakti Narasingha Maharaj, when Rupa Goswami gave 50% for Krishna, 25% for his own self, 25% for the members of his family. He did so when he was renouncing family life. How is it practical for a devotee who is still in family life to give 50% of his earning to Krishna and at the same time maintain his family? Yeah, devotees interpreted this 50% in many ways, in different ways. But of course, your first duty is to maintain your family. That you must give the necessities to your family. That there's also some interpret this as, yes, you maintain your family, and what is left from that, 50% you give for Krishna, 20% for oneself, and 25% for the family members. Yeah. Good. Then to the question of Ananka Morini, she writes, as Lord Vamandev covered the entire universe in just 2 steps, why did he ask for 3 steps? Yes, that's a good question, because he wanted the Bali Maharaj not only to surrender the universe, but also himself, Atmanivedanam, give himself also. And that's what he wants from all of us. He wants us, for all of us, to come to this 3rd step, that give ourselves completely, Atmanivedanam. So that is a good question. Tomorrow you can think about this question for tomorrow. Analyze the propriety of Bali Maharaj's rejection of his guru's instructions. We will discuss that tomorrow, but you can also already prepare that for tomorrow. So thank you for your cooperation and for listening attentively. If there are any more questions, please, you can raise your hand now. And we have 5 minutes left, 5-10 minutes to discuss. Yes, Mother Ananga Moini, you want to speak?
Sorry, can you just please show the question for tomorrow again on the screen?
Yeah, it's there. That, it's an important question. I just presented here in Bulgaria the ISKCON Disciple course. And one point is there, in what situation can you reject your guru? And these verses of this chapter of the 8th canto are quoted here. That that's Guru Tyag, called rejection of one's guru. That, but one must have appropriate reasons, and Bali Maharaj says appropriate reasons. So that's important that we get the answer on this correctly. Tomorrow we will analyze, go to chapter 20 and start with chapter 21. Anand Kaur Sundar Prabhu, you want to speak? Please do so.
Generally, when I preach to congregation devotees, so many of the devotees have a complaint that especially those who have just started with their jobs or their career or business. So generally they say that when we read Prabhupada's purports, it talks about being content, being satisfied. So generally we lose our enthusiasm to earn money and progress in material life. And they ask me that, no, tell me something which can encourage us. So I generally don't find words to encourage them. So what should we do?
Yes, of course, you come to this movement, you have a job, a family, and so on. Now, two possibilities. You are very, very sincere in making spiritual progress, and Krishna is merciful and takes everything away. But if he does not do that, we have to learn how to use our situation in a favorable way to advancing Krishna consciousness. And this is not done through just renouncing. That's for the impersonalist. Impersonalists give everything up. A devotee learns how to use everything in Krishna's service. So Srila Prabhupada, he was a Grihastha, and he wanted to earn a lot of money to support the mission of his Guru Maharaj. So that is the example. Srila Prabhupada had the appropriate mentality of a Grihastha. So no need to tell them, but there is another question, another point to your question is you must learn to be satisfied with what you have. That's an essential point. But at the same time, you must use everything in the service of Krishna. Do it for Krishna. Don't do it now to get money. If you have still the desire to get money, get a lot of money to give to Krishna. Then it's all right. So that is what they have to learn. That it's not that you become Krishna conscious and you lose all your interest in material life. That may happen after 30 years chanting and progressing to the stages, then you lose it. But mostly in the beginning, that doesn't happen. That it is Saturvidya Bhajantamam Yechana Parpa. There are 4 kinds of people who come to Krishna, who surrender to Krishna. and they evolve material desires. So we come all to this movement with material desires, that and that giving that up is a gradual process by learning the art of how to use these material desires in Krishna consciousness. It's not that you become at the spot Krishna conscious and you lose your material, you lose your interest in material life. Would be good, but it doesn't happen for anyone. It's a slow process. So you have to explain to the congregation that Krishna consciousness is a process with stages. That's important. That's important. But that's one of my Shiksha gurus was Prahlad Nanda Maharaj, and I was traveling with him in the Balkan states. And we used to give together classes. He was speaking 20 minutes, and then I was speaking 20 minutes on a verse. And then in private, he would give me feedback, sometimes sweet, sometimes not so sweet. But that's what he was always stressing. You have to explain Krishna consciousness is a process with stages. And then they will understand Krishna consciousness is not just giving up everything immediately. It's stages, it takes a while, and it's not easy to go to these stages. Does that help, Anand Kausunda?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay. Mother Hema Gopi, our last question for today. Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I've heard when I was a small girl, when I was hearing this story from my grandma, I've heard that Sukracharya was given the responsibility of keeping the demons away from Vishnu, and Brihaspati was given the responsibility of keeping the demigods towards, to become devotees or something like that, that they purposefully do it or something like that. I remember here. Is there some kind of evidence we have in Bhagavatam, or do you know something about this, Maharaj, if you can share kindly?
I'm not sure I understand the question correctly, but I think you are saying, yes, Brihaspati, he acted to bring the demigods to Lord Vishnu, and the other was?
Sukracharya acts purposefully to keep the demons away from Vishnu.
Yeah, that's true. That's what we are seeing here. That, of course, Sukracharya, he was a Karmakandiya, and in the Karmakanda rituals, you also worship Vishnu. But Vishnu is not the goal. It's like a means, the official worship, to get their material benefit. A material benefit, striving for material benefit means taking us away from Vishnu or Lord Krishna automatically. So we will hear Shukracharya is not the real goal. That and Brihaspati was instructing his disciple Indra, but Indra was not accepting Brihaspati for spiritual reasons. That's also a problem. There, the problem is at the disciple. That's very interesting. Thank you so much. I hope
Thank you, Maharaj.
I hope it was a little helpful in my presentation, and I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow to hear Bali Maharaj's reaction to the instructions of his Karma. Hare Krishna.
रोमांटिक सॉन्ग किया था दीदी के साथ
Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.